Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Blaze Gaming. My name is Dakota, and I have a bit of a weird video for you today. It's kind of out of character for me, but I am just really proud of something I've done that I really wanted to share with people. And it's going to be part of the stream soon, but I wanted to share kind of the behind the scenes, kind of lift the veil a little bit, um, because it's kind of nerdy and like complicated, but it is something that's just kind of a big accomplishment for me. So I'm really excited to share it, and not a lot of people I know would really, I guess, understand kind of like I guess how crazy it is that I've managed to pull this off. But I'm gonna give you a little preview here. This is for just for a heads up. Our next big long play on the stream is going to be Divinity Original Sin 2. So this is going to be talking about what I've done for the overlay for the stream for that. And the because if I was doing it in like pre-recorded, it would be I could do whatever I wanted and have it be fine. But the technique that I used for Divinity Original Sin 1 was I created custom portrait frames based on the ones that were in game, rendered them in Blender, and then used them as sort of an overlay. And then I took a copy of the game footage as it was being streamed, and I cropped it down and put it into the health bar spot on the custom portrait frames that I did. The problem that I ran into with Divinity Original Sin 2 is that the UI is quite a bit smaller in regards to the health bar and the new armor bars that exist as well, and and there's also now source points. So there's a few extra things that I had to account for, and the health bars were just so small that it wasn't really going to look very good on the portrait frames that I made, and reducing the size of the portrait frames was not like ideal because we were already pretty small on the screen compared to my normal webcam size, which I hope is a decent size. I don't really know what people usually use for that. I just kind of eyeballed it, so hopefully it's okay. But anyways, I want to show you guys a sort of preview of what it looks like first, and then I'll get into the behind the scenes of like how I pulled this all off. So basically, this will be the new overlay for Divinity Original Sin 2, and you can see already that the portrait frames are updated now, and we have a health bar, we have our physical armor bar, and we have the let me you can't see my mouse, so but yeah, we have the physical armor bar and the magical armor bar, and then there's the source point gems at the top of each portrait frame. So that's how it looks right now. That's what's going to look like on the stream, basically. But I want to get into how this works behind the scenes because like I said, I'm very proud of it. So bear with me because it's a little bit on the nerdy side. So let's have a look here. Okay, so this is going to be really complicated at first. If you're not familiar with programming, or especially with the Divinity engine that Larian uses and stuff like that. But basically, the Divinity engine itself uses a custom scripting language called Osiris for its story scripts. Story scripts are kind of the main parts of the game, the main ways that that it calculates a lot of the things that go on in the game. And now Divinity Original Sin 2 runs both client and server at the same time. Most calculations are done on the server, but there are some client-side things as well. So even when you're playing single player, it's kind of like Minecraft in that way, where even when you're playing single player, you'll be running server and client sides of the game simultaneously. So you're technically always playing multiplayer. That's how kind of you're able to have people drop in and out. But all Osiris events are done on the server. And that's where like I said, a lot of the calculations come in. So basically what I've done is I've created a story script that detects when the game is started, not in character creation, because the character that you're building in character creation is not the character technically that you're using in the actual game. So I make it so that it determines whether it's an actual in-game level not character creation, using this query here called is game level. Now, this is an interesting query because the first parameter is supposed to be the name of the level, and the second parameter is a Boolean as to whether it's true or false, whether it is a game level or is not a game level. And interestingly, this query, a lot of people were confused about it in the modding community, and I was too, because it kept saying I had an unbound variable when I just try to leave it blank, like I do like here. But I realized that in the documentation it says that the first parameter is completely ignored. There's reasoning for it. I can't remember if it really said what the reasoning was. I think it might have hinted at it, but like basically the first parameter is just completely ignored. So you can put anything there. So as long as it's formatted as a string, which this is, you could put anything there. So I have my three options. I have you can't see it behind my camera, but I peed here, then I pooped here, and then redacted. So these are not real game levels, of course. I just put whatever I wanted to in there because it doesn't matter. But you have to have something, otherwise the story scripts won't compile, which is hilarious. But every time a person joins the session, after the game is started, and once the game is started, it iterates through all the players or all the characters that are in the game at the moment and checks them all the characters for an avatar tag, which is only applied to custom characters, including the origin characters. But it's basically the character that you made in character creation. If it's an origin character, it still counts as an avatar. So it's universal in that way. And what it does is if they have the avatar tag, then it grabs the various details associated with the person who is controlling that character, and then it files them all into a database and assigns them a player number. Now that database is tied to your save file, so it's persistent across your save files. Even if you reload a save or whatever, your all your stuff will still be there. If you reload to a save where you didn't have the database stored, it will create the database every time. So that's kind of, I had to figure out how I was going to make sure that was persistent. But it is save file persistent, so each new playthrough that you do of Divinity, it will have its own database. And then once it's assigned a player number to each character or to each person, then it can start reading their resource points, basically. And then that's where my second story script comes in, which starts to it basically has certain conditions that trigger. So luckily, when it comes to health, there's the character vitality changed event in Osiris built in that gives me a character GUID and the health percentage that they have once their vitality has changed. And then I can use that to find if the character has the avatar tag, and then of course get the user ID and all that stuff, and then record. And then I can retrieve from the database that I've already created the player number associated with that user, and then send an external function call to another script that I wrote that I'll get into in a second that tells that script what the new health percentage is and the player number that it's associated with. This is all really complicated, I know, but it all starts to make sense as the further I get down. Basically, then we have armor. Armor is a bit more unusual because there isn't a similar event for when your armor is damaged or restored. So instead, I have it triggered on hits and on heals that we start to track the armor percentages. Now, another difference here is that there is no way to get the armor percentage technically in base Osiris script. And this is where I believe this was a script extender, or it was LeaderLib, one of the two. I used both of them in this mod, but there's the character get armor percentage, and the character get magic armor percentage. Now, interestingly, the built-in Osiris event of character vitality change gives you a health percentage, but it's an integer, which is very strange. Integers, if you don't know, are just whole numbers. They're fully rounded to a whole number. There's no decimals in them. But the modded additional query here gives me a real. A real is a number that has a decimal. So I have to actually transfer the real into an integer using the built-in Osiris integer function or a query. So that was a really odd hurdle I had to get over, but it does work, and that's fine. And oddly enough, source points were the hardest because, as far as I can tell, there is no universal way to tell if a character has had their source points updated. There are because you gain multiple extra max source points throughout the game. That has its own unique set of scripting. And then there's also whether you've used a source point, whether you've regained a source point from a surface or from the gift bag mod that Larian themselves put out that restores source points on resting. That's also its own set of scripting that's unique to it. And then there's also like different things if your character has a source vampirism used on them by another character and it has a source point stolen from them. There's all these different things. Or if you use source vampirism yourself to restore source points, it's very complicated and it's not really intuitive. It's also very weird that one of the core resource values of the game doesn't have a way to track changes to it in real time, like universally. So now, granted, there might be a way to do it that I don't know about, and there also probably is. I would say very likely is a way to track calls to the UI, the user interface, that would, because the user interface does have to track your character's source points in real time, and all characters in the session, all their source points in real time too. But because the UI in Divinity Original Sin 2 is made using Flash, I didn't want to learn ActionScript. It's a dead language, and it's also it's insecure. It's got a lot of security flaws. I just don't want to work within that, so I just try to do workarounds. Hopefully this works. It seems to have been fixed and handled by all the edge case coverage that I've tried to work out here. But then what this all does is it sends stuff from the official Osiris story header. The story compilation. It sends all this data to this external Lua script that I wrote. Now, the Lua script, you can only do these Lua scripts if you have the script extender. So it does rely on the script extender by Norbite in order to do that. Thank you, Norbite, for that. And it also, I think I also have some stuff. Like I said, there's LeaderLib in this as well, so that like both Laughing Leader and Norbite are the goats for all this stuff, giving us access to all this. So basically, what this does is that when one of these functions that I've created gets called, it writes the number of your health or your armor or your source points to a custom text file in a specific location. And it names that specific text file after the player number of the person the data is associated with. So hopefully this all works. I actually need to take out the test, my test function here, because I don't really need that anymore. Hopefully that doesn't break my whole script, but it shouldn't. So then this is all well and good, but what do these text files actually do? They simply just store one single data point. Now, I could probably do it in a more complicated way and have it in less files, because currently there's 4 files per player, which is a bit nuts. But I'm not a programmer. Like, obviously, I've written a lot of program or code here, but like, I'm not a programmer. I'm not. So I did it in a very simple way. And what I've done with this is basically I've taken these text files and I brought them into Firebot. Now, if you don't know what Firebot is, it's something that's used by streamers on Twitch for handling a lot of your behind the scenes stuff live and giving you better access and control over different things that happen on your stream. It's very, very useful. It has a lot of great features. I've been using it for a bit now, thanks to Madu. And shout out to Madu, my homie who's a streamer, who turned me onto this. It's been so powerful and so useful. I don't know what I'd do without it. But basically, this gets really, really complicated. So I have these time-based events because there's no way to check for updates to a file in order to trigger an event. So I have to do it on a timer, which is kind of annoying because I'd rather just do it when it's updated, but instead I have it on a 5-second timer. So I have this this updater here. It runs every 5 seconds. So you'll see here that I have an advanced schedule and it uses the cron tab format. So it's this basically what this means is every 5 seconds. It's I had to learn what cron tab was. I didn't know what it was. So if you haven't heard of it, don't feel bad. I didn't know what it was either. But then what it does, one second. Oh, I'm dying over here. What that does is that every 5 seconds it checks each of the 4 files per character to get the variables that are put into those files so that it knows to send an update to the overlay to change the value on the overlay. So you'll see that right here I have the update progress bar. Now, progress bars are another feature of Firebot. They're kind of odd, and it certainly wouldn't be the best way to do it. The best way to do this would be to have a completely custom graphic that I could control automatically using the data that I've stored through the scripts, but I'm not that good at programming. There's no way. So a progress bar in Firebot is a bit unusual in that they only expect you to have certain requirements for a progress bar. So it's pretty basic. I don't put any labels on them because I don't really need to. It's pretty clear what they're supposed to be if you're familiar with the game at all. But then what these do is a little bit strange, and I'll get more into them later. But one thing I want to point out right now is that they also can trigger other effects based on whether when the progress bar has been updated or when it has been completed. Not depleted, because it only expects you to want to use it in one direction because it's a progress bar, not just a counter or something like that. Now, a counter wouldn't really have the same abilities either. And the thing about the counters is that they wouldn't have a graphic associated with them. That's the biggest thing. These progress bars have a graphic associated with them. They're very, very basic, but I found a way to make it look like they're not. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, I'll get back into the time-based stuff. So this is very again, very complicated, but it basically checks every 5 seconds for these files to find if what the current value is, and then it multiplies that value by -1. Now that's a really weird thing to have done, but so I have a math variable there and then the read file variable as well, and basically it takes the value from the file and then it multiplies it by 1 at the end here, or -1 at the end. Negative is an important part of this, and now I'm going to show you why. So with the progress bars, as I said, it only expects you to want to care about the completion of the progress bar, not when it reaches 0. But there's not really any reason to have me care about my health bar getting to full health. But if my character loses all their health and dies, that's a different story, and I could trigger some effects on that. Now, I haven't completed what I'm going to do with this yet. I'm still trying to figure out what the effect is going to be, but I want to have an effect on when my character dies or when another player character dies. So what I did is kind of unusual, but I put the minimum value of the progress bar to -100, and I put the maximum value to 0. There was probably another way to do that, but that is basically how I did it for this circumstance. Just because it's straightforward, it makes sense. If you just multiply it by a negative, you get you get it like this. So basically, completion is when it reaches 0, because when you multiply 0 by -1, it's just 0. So when the health bar is 0, yeah. Anyways, my character will be dead, and then I can trigger a non-complete effect. And on top of that, instead of having the health bar be red, I actually have it. Luckily, they have it I can set it as an alpha. So the health bar doesn't actually have a color value or any value. It's just see-through. But the bar itself, the progress bar, is black. But the progress bar is actually the missing health, right? So what that does is I have a basic image behind the scenes here. You're not gonna be able to see it, but let me pull it up on another window here. Yeah, so this is a thing that I've got going on here. This is basically uh, my resource bars. So that's what the resource bars actually look like behind the scenes. So these are actually layered underneath the portrait frame. And the portrait frame itself looks like this. So you can see there's a slight glass sheen on that. So I put glass over each of the bars to make it look a little nicer. But the health bars, because the progress bars in Firebot have an alpha, it shows how much health I have, and the black part of the progress bar will actually start to overtake these parts, and it will look like it's taken this away. And now, if I was just to use the built-in colors of the progress bars in Firebot, it would just be red, white, and blue. And it's not, you wouldn't get a lot of this extra detail and look to it. And I kind of wanted to have that, so I just did it. And when I realized there was an alpha I could use, I just did that. So that's how that works. And then of course the source points are also kind of like that, but they're a little bit more complicated because of how source points work is so different. So what these do is I have conditional effects that use an if, else if, otherwise statement, or else statement. And so what it does is it reads the value of the source point file that I've created using the mod, and it compares it to an existing number. If it is 1, for example, it will update the overlay frame that I'm using to the 1 source point frame that I've pre-rendered, which is that. Now it's going to look a little bit weird on the video right now because the colors are in HDR and you're not going to be able to see that because I'm recording this in SDR, and it's going to look a little bit weird, but that's what it looks like. So you can see at the top, there's that little extra source point there. And then of course I've got the 3 source point as well. Looks like that. So that's how that all works. And I'm like, I've been working on this for like a week or more than a week. And again, I'm not a programmer. I've done a little bit of scripting before. I've written an Osiris script in Baldur's Gate 3. It's not in a publicly released mod. It's something that I'm still working on behind the scenes, or had been working on while I was waiting for Moonglasses to be updated. I took a break, but then I found out that the Moonglasses Discord that I only joined in order to get update announcements on the Moonglasses add-on for the the Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit mod. They don't actually ping everyone for announcements, so I got updated ages ago and I didn't know about it. So that was fun. Anyways, so this is only the second time I've written Osiris script, and I've written Lua before, but it's been ages. It was like on Computercraft Minecraft mod. I wrote one Lua program to manage my there was a pipes mod. I can't remember what it was called. Logistics pipes. I wrote a Computercraft Lua script to handle to manage my logistics pipe system. Anyways, that's ages ago. Like I said, I'm not a programmer. I'm not very good at this, but having made a mod that handles all this stuff, I'm really fucking proud of it. And while it's not perfect necessarily, it is really cool. And because the Divinity engine was just upgraded in order to make Baldur's Gate 3, I'll be able to easily update the mod for Baldur's Gate 3 and use it for that when we do the playthrough of that as well. So I just wanted to share this because I'm really proud of it. And if other people want to use this mod, I will probably release it so that other people can use it, because I tried to make it so that it was modular, basically, where you can it will adjust. It will adjust based on the number of people that are playing, even if you have mods that increase the the party size and stuff like that. And it just tracks the avatars of each user rather than all your companions and minions and all that stuff. Though you could also change it so that it like if you wanted to rewrite or add some scripts to it, you could probably make it so that it also managed companions and summons and stuff. But I didn't want to bother with that because I don't want to bung up my overlay too badly. But yeah, so I just wanted to go on a little nerdy rant about this. Like I said, I don't really have programmer friends. I've one friend who's in game design, and I have a friend who used to be into programming, but he's not anymore. Yeah, so it's complicated. It's really nerdy, but I really am proud of what I've done. So I'm excited to see people's reaction to it on stream. I I really love this mod, and I'm gonna probably brag about it a lot during the playthrough until people tell me to shut up. But that's about it from me today. Thank you for watching and listening to me nerd out about really lame nerdy shit that only I care about. And we'll be live. I'll be going live in like half an hour. Oh my god! Of course, Windows is going to break on me in the background. By the way, Windows sucks, and I really want to get rid of it. I've already installed Linux, and I'm planning to replace Windows entirely, but I just haven't gotten there yet. Because I've been working on shit like this, and if I wasn't using VS Code, I don't know what I would use. I mean, granted, I could probably run VS Code in Wine, but I have to learn how to use Wine. It's been so long since I've run any Linux anything. So, where's my fucking taskbar? There we go. All right, so yeah, I'll be going live in like an hour and a half. So yeah, tune in for that. This video will not be uploaded by then, I don't think, but tune in for the next one, and we'll see you then. And then actually, the next stream after this video goes up will probably be our first day of Divinity Original Sin 2. So this one will also go a lot smoother and probably a lot quicker than the first game. I mean, there's more content, I think, than there was in the first game, but we know this game really well. We've already played it before. That's why I was able to delve into the code and write a mod like this. But yeah, that's all from me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.